Hey world! So, as you might tell by my Christmas jumper and my Christmas mug, um, it's December and I'm really excited. So I decided that this year I would write a Christmas short story. I started this last year, I think, or 2 years ago, and it basically just means that I write like about a chapter every day, and that this story takes place in December, in the days from the 1st of December till the 24th, so till Christmas, and that I just write each day in the story. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. If you're interested in reading this, I will link my Wattpad account down below. It is just under a Christmas story. But I also decided that every Sunday I would post a video of me reading what I've wrote that week. You know, that you can just listen to me. I won't do anything fancy, just reading from my little notebook here. But that you can listen to the story while, you know, wrapping your Christmas presents and, I don't know, baking cookies or stuff like this. So you can just listen to each part of the story, or you can save the whole story and wait and then listen to the whole story on Christmas. And that's what I'm gonna do today. So I'll just begin. Enjoy. December 1st. It all began on December 1st. She sat next to the window, staring out of the dizzyingly warm classroom into the wide world ahead of her. The snow was about 10 centimeters high, and steady little snowflakes lay down on it constantly, while the weak winter sun already stopped bothering. Just like me, Alea thought, bitterly. She wished to just stare at the falling snow forever, to lose herself in her own blank mind. But that was the moment the teacher entered the room, followed by Alea's future disasters. Only that she didn't know that yet. For now, the two unknown faces meant a nice distraction from the one she tried to black out, which was impossible seeing as the someone owning that face sat only 2 desks away from her. Catching herself gazing into that exact direction, she quickly brought her attention to the front again, where the teacher now introduced the new ones as siblings Till and Sam, who had just moved here from Minehead, and told the class to be nice to them. She then instructed Sam to sit in the front row, and Till, oh wonder, to take the newly free seat next to Alea. He sat down, friendly grin on his face, and seemingly oblivious to her current state of emotion, or rather lack of emotion. "Hi, I'm Till. Nice to meet you." "Yeah, I heard your name," she said, barely looking at him before turning her head to the window again, away from all the faces, all the smiles, all the voices. But she felt his gaze on the back of her head, and even though she tried to ignore him, she already felt guilty about her mean introduction. That guy hadn't done anything after all, so she looked at him. "I'm Alea. Sorry, you just caught me on a bad day." "You don't say. I wouldn't have noticed," he answered, but the smile he still wore on his lips made it seem more an understanding than an offensive answer. So she did her best to smile back, not really successful though, and then went back to watching snow fall onto snow and cover the dirty, mean world with a blanket of mindless lies. December 2nd. When Alea entered the classroom the next day, her boots sprinkled with icy crystals and her fingertips frozen, she immediately saw Till sitting at the seat next to hers with 2 cups of coffee and that old grin. She trudged over to their desk, trying to pass the desk in the middle of the room without looking, and fell onto the chair with an "Uff," because she still couldn't keep her eyes from gazing over there, just to see that idiot talking to Sam, while she played with her long black hair and smiled a smile that was even prettier than her brother's. Alea rolled her eyes while taking out her books, but then she realized Till's inquisitive look and stopped. "What?" she asked, her voice a mix of annoyance and amusement that seemed to wake him from his trance. Still in a bad mood? He asked without answering her previous question. A bit, she answered after a short side glare to the now laughing Sam. Yeah, I thought so. That's why I brought you a hot chocolate as well, to warm your heart a bit. His friendly smile turned into a smirk, while Alea's face probably looked as if he'd told her to go camping outside in the snow that night. What? Did no one ever bring you a drink? The amusement in his eyes grew even wider, and he obviously did his best not to just laugh out loud at her reaction. Well, yeah, but not some guy I just met the day before. So you don't want it? He asked, raising an eyebrow and taking back the hand that held the cup for a bit. That's when she finally got over her surprise to let out a small giggle. I'd never say no to a hot chocolate. And after having taken it from him, she added, "Thank you." "My pleasure." And the cups met to cheer each other before taking a first sip of the warm liquid. "So," he continued, the curious look having returned to his face, "why are you so grumpy? Is it just the freezing weather, or do you have an actual reason to question we drink?" She smiled, but couldn't resist looking over his shoulder again. Of course he noticed and turned to see Sam talking to a guy with broad shoulders, brown hair, and a mischievous smile on his lips. "My sister?" Till drank his chocolate while waiting for Alea to return her attention to him to explain, which she did after watching the scene behind him for a bit longer. "No, not really. I don't know your sister. It would be stupid to be pissed because of her, wouldn't it?" She tried to make it sound like a joke, but Till just raised an eyebrow again and indicated for her to continue. "Well," she looked at her cup, took a deep breath, and then locked eyes with Till again. "That guy she's talking to, that's Josh, my ex. I won't go into any detail, but maybe you should warn your sister not to fall for him." She drank her hot chocolate, trying to ignore his curious eyes. "Because you'd be jealous." He finally broke the silence. "No." Her laugh sounded bitter. "No, I don't give a damn about Josh anymore." This wasn't completely true, but she guessed Till already knew that. But it could be bad for Sam to be with him. Now Till looked rather confused, so Alea took another deep breath before finally saying, "He cheated on me. Twice." December 3rd. Of course they're flirting. Look at them. They sat at their desk, latte macchiato in one hand and Alea's self-made "sorry I've been so mean" cookies in the other, and pretended to be talking about the blizzard going on outside, while Alea constantly gazed over Till's shoulder. "I thought you said I wasn't allowed to turn around. How am I supposed to look at them then?" He didn't even try to tell her that Sam and Josh might just be talking, because that's exactly what he has been trying to convince her of for the last 10 minutes, but she didn't even listen. Instead, he enjoyed the view of her annoyed expression in front of the dancing snowflakes at the window. He sighed when she didn't react and gave it one more shot. "My sister really isn't one for flirting with just any guy. She is, however, one for being totally into sports and willing to talk about it all the time. And the way your ex looks, they seem to have that in common." He gave her an apologizing smile because she winced a bit at the word ex. Of course, Alea knew that he was right. Josh really was a sportsman and a really friendly guy as well, that was if he wasn't an idiot. So it was just normal for him to talk to the new girl that also liked sports. And it wasn't Sam's fault that she looked absolutely stunning with her dyed black hair, light green eyes and trained body. But still, did she have to touch his arm every time he made a joke? Did she have to smile that pretty smile? Being buried deeply in her thoughts, she jumped and nearly spilled her drink when Till waved his cookie hand in front of her face. "Hello!" Elea gave him a look as if waking up after a 10-year nap, her brain needing a while to get back to reality and realizing that he probably had asked her something. Yeah, what? The blue iced cookie made its way over her smirking lips, so that Elea had a bit longer to break her gaze on the laughing pair in the middle of the classroom. I said you should join us, said Till's crispy voice. Seeing her total confusion, he rolled his eyes and added, Christmas shopping. Sam and I are going Christmas shopping after school, and you should join us, to get to know her a bit better. You find that she really isn't that bad. She took a sip of her latte macchiato and thought about Till's offer, but judging by his satisfied smile, she probably didn't have much of a choice. So, 4 hours later, Elea found herself holding a new cup of hot chocolate while waiting for Sam to get her own drink from the barista. Of course she noticed Till looking at her curiously, trying to figure out if that first conversation between the two girls already worked its wonders. But Elea wouldn't dare to admit that Sam actually seemed really nice and interested in Elea and not at all bitchy in any way. When Sam finally got hold of a chai latte, the three of them hurried through the cold wind into the big shopping center that greeted them with warmth and the smell of cinnamon-spiced chocolate. Since Elea didn't plan on buying anything in particular, she left the command to the twins and followed them into the local Waterstones, where Till hoped to find a book about dogs for their mother. She always wanted to have a dog, but Dad said they were too loud and too expensive. So I'm guessing now's the time for her to fulfill her wish, isn't it? He explained, strolling through the shelves, stopping every now and then. It was only yesterday that Elea had asked him why he and Sam had to change school in the middle of the year, and had learned that their parents just got divorced. After which the twins moved to London with their father, while their mom took a year off to travel through Africa, another forbidden dream of hers. Till seemed to be quite cool with all these changes, but when Elea looked over to Sam, she saw a sudden sadness in her eyes that she tried to hide by picking up a book about the relation between dogs and wolves. I'm sorry about your parents. It must be really strange for you. At first Elea was just as surprised as Sam about her words, but then she realized she really meant it, and so she stepped closer to Sam and gave her an apologizing smile. Sam smiled back, and then, her gaze on Till, who had found his book on the other side of the shelves, whispered, He only pretends he wouldn't care. I think he wants to be strong for me, but I think he really hates our parents for what they did. There was a long silence before Sam walked over to her brother and left Elea feeling horrible for ever being angry at her. The rest of the day was spent sharing family stories and Christmas gift ideas, drinking dozens of flavored hot drinks, and laughing about the most hideous decorations in the shop windows. December 4th. It had been about 5 minutes ago that Elea had entered the classroom and passed the desk in the middle with a small greeting to Sam, who had taken her usual place on Josh's desk, with whom she seemed to be discussing the formation of the local basketball team in their last game. Since then, she had been watching the two while waiting for Till to finish his homework so that he could distract her. She had been trying to watch the snow fall instead, but all she saw was a blurry reflection of her own sad expression. However, when Sam threw her head back laughing at Josh's impression of one of the players, she just couldn't take it any longer. Without any word of warning, she stood up, past the irritated Till, and walked over to Josh's desk, eyes started on Sam, who turned to her when Josh stopped smiling. "Elea, what's up?" Her voice was full of joy, oblivious to the tension around her. Elea simply took her hand and said, "Could I talk to you for a second?" Unable to ignore the threatened look on Josh's face, who already seemed to have guessed what would happen. Sam, on the other hand, still had no idea, and smiled while following Elea out of the classroom. "What is it?" she asked, as soon as the door closed behind her. Well, okay. I don't really know how to say this without sounding like a horrible person, so... She stopped, trying to avoid Sam's questioning stare, while still searching for words. Okay. She breathed out, finally looking up and locking eyes with Sam. It's about Josh. I think it'd be better for you to stay away from him. The change of emotion was slowly, as if Elea's words had pressed a button to slow down the time, and she saw how curiosity became surprise, which changed into blankness. Why? Was all she said. You see, we were a couple, and yes, I know this sounds as if I were jealous, but I swear I'm not. That's not it. It's just that he... Sam stared at her, waiting for a reason. He cheated on me, and I think you should know this before falling for him. She had her head down, for some reason ashamed of her behavior. She did the right thing, didn't she? Of course she did. She only wanted to protect Sam. Josh had cheated on her, and he would hurt Sam in the same way. Her inner reasoning was interrupted by the sound of a giggle that made her look up abruptly, seeing the girl she thought she had shocked with a big grin on her lips. "Only I'm sorry," she laughed. "I'm really sorry that he hurt you, but I'm not falling for him." And after catching her breath, she added more seriously, "And listen, I respect that you don't want anything to do with him. I wouldn't either if I were you. And I know that by telling me this you only meant well. But I have no intention of dating Josh, and as far as I'm concerned, he seems really funny. So I will continue talking to him. I hope the two of us can still be friends, nonetheless." Elea only nodded, her reaction about half a minute too late, but enough to vanish Sam's concerned expression. "Great," was her last word before she stroked Elea's arm and then went back into the classroom. "That went very different from what I expected," Elea thought to herself. December 5th. She walked down the hallway on her way to the last class, her mind already filled with to-do lists for the afternoon, when she heard a familiar voice calling her name. For a moment she considered ignoring him and quickly escaping into one of the classrooms, but first of all he'd know that her next session was at the other end of the building, and secondly she couldn't help but wanting to hear what he'd have to say to her after over a week of silence between them. So she stopped and turned around. Josh sprinted up to her, his face angry, his steps energetic. He surely didn't come to apologize. "What were you thinking?" he shouted, when he was only a few meters away. That took Elea by surprise, so much that she nearly laughed out loud about how absurd the situation was. Her ex, who had cheated on her, accusing her of... well, what was he accusing her of? She found out when he finally stood directly in front of her and said furiously, "Why did you tell Sam about our breakup?" The fact that he couldn't even say the word cheating out loud nearly made her laugh again, but then the anger took control of her and she took a step towards him, into his personal space, answering with a calm voice but fire in her eyes. "You cheated on me. You are the one to blame. And I have every right to tell everyone what you did to me, especially the girl that might just become your next victim." This representation of him as a criminal seemed to hit a spot, his expression weakening for a second, but the anger remained, and so he hissed, "I know what I did. But Sam isn't a victim, neither anyone else. But Sam is crazy enough to think that I have some stupid emotional issue." He looked at her as if trying to engrave his next words directly into her mind. "I'm sorry for hurting you. I really am. But we both know that I'm not a bad person, and you just destroyed my chance of having at least one person in this class that doesn't judge me for one stupid mistake." Elea blinked her eyes, surprised by the pure emotion behind his words. Then she turned around, without another word, to get to her classroom, hearing Josh shout, "You're no better than I am," after her before his steps faded away into the opposite direction. December 6th. Sometimes you gotta bleed to know that you're alive and have a soul. The voice screaming out of her music system filled the room, drowning the sound of falling teardrops in his rhythm. She had been listening to the same CD for 3 hours now, her body numb from the loud beats, her sad mind emptied by the repetition. It was nice to not feel, to just lay on her bed and let the melancholy wash over her, while passively realizing that her cheeks were wet. At one point her mother had entered the room, but she hadn't complained about the volume or tried to lighten her daughter's mood, but simply put a plate with mashed potato on Elia's bedside table, where it still stood, the food cold and untouched, and it told her that she'd be off to work now. Elia had heard the car drive off, leaving the rest of the house empty and silent. The song reached its end, and she awaited the next one to quieten her thoughts, when a loud bang on the door appeared instead. Even though her first instinct was to just stay in bed while the visitor left, she also knew that the music probably would have revealed her presence, so she lazily made her way out of a nest of blankets, trotted over to the desk to turn off the music, and went downstairs. She should have attended to make herself look a bit more presentable. Pyjamas, frizzy hair and red eyes weren't really that much of a good look at her. But she just couldn't bother, so she just opened the door the way she was. Only to close it immediately when seeing a trained, brown-haired boy standing outside, hand raised in process of knocking again. From one second to the other, she felt her previously numb heart beating incredibly fast, blood rushing through her ears and making everything sound unbearably loud, including Josh's attempt to make her open the door once again. Instead, she rushed upstairs, turning the music up even louder than before and falling face first into her bed, her cushions soaked with tears the moment she touched them. This was the first week of my Christmas story. I really hope you liked it. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments below. And as I said, the Wattpad link to the whole story to read will be in the link below, and it will go on next week. Until then, I hope you have an amazing day and that you think of something to smile for every day, and I hope you have an awesome week. Bye!